The Flower Cup is home to a lot of classic tracks throughout the series. It's interesting to see the progression of difficulty these tracks display from the previous cup. Getting it just right is a challenge as the variety in courses here is crazy. So I feel like this time the disparity in rankings is going to be much different than last time. If you haven't seen the previous video, I'll link the playlist in the description, but essentially what I'm doing is going through every slot of the Flower Cup and ranking each track from worst to best. The top 3 tracks will be given points so we can determine what game has the best Flower Cup tracks overall. Instead of going over the rules each time, you can pause and look over them now. So without wasting any more time, let's get into the options for slot 1. Choco Island is an awfully frustrating course to drive, but couple it with the mud and you've got an almost unplayable track. So pretty much every Flower Cup has some variation of a Mario circuit, except for DS because it had to be special, but the Mario circuit track is not always in the same slot. So although this isn't the worst Mario circuit, it's definitely the worst for the first slot. It's still pretty lackluster by itself, and I'd be surprised if this was anyone's favourite due to how derivative of older courses it feels. Mario Kart 8's Mario circuit is very boring. The road is way too open with not many obstacles spread throughout. For the things it does add like Goombas and Piranha Plants, they rarely have a meaningful impact on the race. But its saving grace is the bonk you can do at the end. This is a pretty solid course. I mean, for a desert track that is. I don't know what it is about desert tracks, but everyone kind of agrees they suck. The design at the start of the course is so full of nothing, but I definitely enjoy the ending hills. Drifting between them is quite difficult, and not many other courses have areas that require such sharp turns. Also using mushrooms here and boosting over the hills is very fun. So I guess you could say I like 50% of the track. Toad's Turnpike kinda drops the ball, cause I really do love car tracks in Mario Kart. The feeling of just weaving through a tight space or dodging a car whilst keeping the optimal path is thrilling. But Toad's Turnpike uses the most boring layout imaginable, which results in the cars having little impact on most of the race. I still love those moments where the cars compile in a tight space, but when the best part only makes up 20% of the race, it's not too exciting. On its base game, this is the most Mario circuit of all time, but we're using the Mario Kart 8 version, so it's actually surprisingly good. Adding the anti-gravity to this course gives it a grander scale while still feeling cohesive with the rest of the course. This is a course where you feel like you're constantly drifting because there's always something to do. And the shortcut at the end makes this an all-round pretty solid track. It isn't spectacular at anything it does, but overall it's just very solid. As I was saying before, all you really need to make a great track is cars. And this course does a lot to ensure it doesn't fall into the same trappings as Toad's Turnpike. This time you actually need to weave between the cars, because the course bends all around to force you into these weird situations. It's still one of the more basic layouts, but I definitely found myself bumping into cars a bit more. Additionally, there's just optional paths added everywhere. There's helpful shortcuts, safe footpaths to avoid cars, weird pipes that don't feel like a viable strategy at all, but I guess it's cool they left it in, and of course, the bridge shortcut. This is incredibly fun to go for, because it's a pretty unique challenge. I can't think of any other courses that have shortcuts where the goal is to stay incredibly straight on a narrow path. This is an all-round incredible course, but I won't lie, its ranking is definitely boosted thanks to it being a car track. Woohoo Loop is one of my favourite concepts for a Mario Kart track. Even though I didn't grow up with Wii Sports Resort, I have a huge appreciation for that game, and I think the setting of Woohoo Island really elevates that game to something more memorable. This course capitalizes on the joy that this world brings and puts in a lot of great references. The segmented course design allows for each lap to feel different. The first lap is more laid back with some good opportunities for shortcuts. The second lap is a bit more risky as you drive along cliff sides. It also adds in some cool shortcuts that are either hard to find or hard to pull off. There are also cars on this track, but they are very sparse. The third lap has one of the best ending sections that I will always go for. If you go this way instead, you're a psychopath and we can't be friends. Gliding downhill and cutting across the track to save time is my favourite moment in this track, and it wraps up one of the best tracks in the series. With ease, the top spot goes to Mario Kart 7, but Mushroom Bridge was definitely a tier higher than anything below it. And I think Mario Circuit getting third is a bit fortunate because the course selection in the first slot is pretty mediocre. But anyways, here's the options for slot 2. Even with the Wiggle Up, I can't help but feel extremely bored playing this track. The visual design is as bland as it comes, and driving around this flat loop isn't as exciting when you aren't trash at the game. Frappe Snowland has one good part, then a bunch of unremarkable places. I really enjoy trying to navigate this snowman crowd. It's especially hard to effectively swerve between them in Mario Kart 64, but when you couple that looser feeling controls with an ice course, it can be pretty frustrating to play. Boo Lake is a track that has grown off me a lot recently. I used to think this was a chaotic, frantic race, which requires you to be as efficient as possible, and I do still appreciate that aspect of the course, because to drive effectively is pretty difficult. But this course is way too short, with no moment that really gives this track any identity. The GameCube iteration of Mario Circuit is definitely not the worst, but for this slot it is. And I like how in this section you can pull off a massive skip, and also avoid the most annoying enemy in the level. The piranha plants have never hit me, but for beginners I could see them being scary. The ending can be pretty intense, especially with some of the items Double Dash has. But overall, this course just blends in with every other Mario Circuit. This Mario Circuit feels a bit more unique. Getting to drive in Peach's castle, whilst brief, is pretty cool. You also then get treated with a fun gliding section that allows you to take a shroomless shortcut. Ideas from other courses are still borrowed, which leaves this feeling like a half attempt at revitalizing the Mario Circuit tracks, but the constant opportunity for shortcuts makes this course fun to replay. Toad Harbor feels like a constantly busy track. In every section of this course, you're given multiple ways to approach it. I really like drifting in this part, trying to save as much time as possible, but the best section is definitely the ending. This completely opens up the course to many different paths, which always results in a chaotic ending. This is an absolute classic theme. After receiving all the city tracks in the booster course pass, it's odd that in comparison, this town course feels really innovative. But I think it's due to the scope of the course not being too large. Therefore, all these unique sections fit really well together. Driving through the tight corridors of the town is difficult but fair. The marketplace has so many shortcuts that feel way more daring than other shortcuts. Jumping across the gap to the pier is something that feels like a pro shortcut, but it's definitely intended to be there. The ending is also very iconic. I can't lie, if this game had the tricking mechanic, this course would work a lot better. And I think the Wii variation of this course would have got first place, because the bridge section just doesn't feel as satisfying without being able to trick. But it's still a phenomenal track with a very unique vibe to it. The original Coconut Mall is so freaking good, and I kind of forgot that because of the Booster Course Pass version. Little things like having the elevators move without the symbols, or the cars moving back and forth, make this version just that extra bit more fun. Couple that with surely the most unique setting in the game, and it's no wonder why this course is a fan favorite. I also wanted to mention all the side paths and secrets in this course. I got pretty used to taking one path as a kid, which made it so fun to discover how many alternate routes this track has. The shortcut felt hidden in such a natural way, and the other jump ramp, whilst kinda obvious, is clearly off the beaten path. Discovering all these little things made an already banger track an absolute classic. So Coconut Mall takes this one, but definitely not in a landslide. The quality of the best tracks from each slot is just getting better, so the top 3 are all really good tracks. Now let's see the options for slot 3. I just want to say, every time I come back to recording Super Mario Kart, I'm reminded of how bad I am at this game, which juxtaposes with this course because it is just so basic. So although I'm struggling to finish top 4, it's not a difficult track and it really has no interesting parts to it. On paper, this should be a pretty impressive course. It's got lots of anti-gravity shake-ups, it integrates a cohesive theme that has many effects on the track, and it has multiple paths and shortcuts. But driving this course just doesn't feel good. I think the problem is this section takes up so much of the track. That's the main part I remember about this track, and it's pretty boring when you're not getting hit by whatever shell has just bounced off 10 walls. Daisy Cruiser is a unique idea for a track that doesn't quite nail its theme. The nature of the course leaves many sections feeling awkward to navigate. On the contrary, there's also a few sections that are just big straightaways with nothing to do. Its saving grace is the dining hall. Now, if there were more unique obstacles like this, I would have liked the track a lot more. Thankfully, Choco Mountain ditches the slippery road of the past and adopts a more chocolate-themed course. For the most part, this course is very average, but the one gimmick that keeps it interesting is the fact you can fall off the cliff and have to start over earlier in the track. Some of the 2D courses did this with their ramp sections, but this feels very unique in that it teaches you to drive more efficiently. I also enjoy drifting around the boulders, even if I almost never get hit. The iconic Waluigi pinball just misses out on top 3. Like I said before, the competition of tracks just gets better and better, because I still really like this course. The aesthetic is one of a kind, and the start of the track really nails the frantic feeling the theme should have. I love how the pinball is predictable, but still difficult to avoid. Now, the ending is technically just as predictable because the pinballs follow the same path, but it's still frustrating when a pinball comes from behind or rushes in from the side of the screen. The lack of shortcuts also lowers its ranking, not too much because the majority of the course is still fun to drive. The glow up of Cheeseland is something that needs to be studied because it's hard to imagine that just adding a bit of elevation to what's essentially a desert track makes it one of the best tracks in Mario Kart 8. But the elevation allows for new shortcuts, variations in the road, and old sections feeling completely new. I used to not love this course because in online lobbies, the strategy is to bag and take this OP shortcut at the end. But recently, I've come to appreciate that aspect of the course. The mad rush at the end to just make this shortcut is thrilling. And there's nothing like gliding in the off-road to just barely beat out whoever's in first. It feels shit when you're the person in first and everyone catches up, but amazing when you come from behind. Music Park feels like such an inspired course. The idea for this is already so creative, and the execution does more with the idea than I could imagine. Little details like the piano making sounds as you travel down it, or the music notes jumping on beat, or the piranha plans bopping to the music. These details give this course a pulse, and the music notes section capitalizes on this really well, as it gives you the opportunity to trick off the ground if you time it on beat. The rest of the course does a great job of not only introducing musical elements to the track, but also making them a good challenge to traverse. It can be really difficult to stay on the track in this section, but I gotta appreciate the challenge here. DK Summit is peak Mario Kart track design, taking a theme that evokes such intensity and adrenaline, and being able to nail that is no small feat. The half pipes have mostly felt pretty useless in Mario Kart Wii, usually just use them to get items, but this course allows you to break gravity in pursuit of having the most fun. Cutting around the corners and then launching into a massive jump is so thrilling, and using the half pipes to dodge the Shy Guys and Snow just develops on the fun of using them. Constantly tricking in this section and then having to lock in to do the gap jumps is pretty intense, but I never know if I'm gonna set it up wrong or get hit by something just before, which in my opinion is a good way to never feel too confident with this track, which ensures I never really know how well I'm going to do. This version, I will say, doesn't seem as accessible as the Mario Kart 8 version, and I think it's a little worse because of that, but I can't lie, the controls of using a bike on this course feels amazing, and this course is easily one of the best in the series. So DK Summit takes first place pretty convincingly. But the fact that Waluigi Pinball didn't even make top 3 and I still really like that course just shows how good these tracks are getting. Now here's the options for the 4th and final slot. Bowser Castle 2 is arguably one of my least favourite tracks in the entire series. The course is so narrow at points, and the grid-based track design of the course doesn't feel like a natural path to follow. And that's especially relevant for this section. The path here is so unnatural and awkward, and they also hide one of 2 item boxes in this extremely out of place turn. I don't even think a remake would help this track, because it's got no saving grace buried anywhere in here. Now, I don't want to be controversial here, but I think Bowser Castle 2 is better than Bowser Castle 2. This course is nowhere near as annoying, and it adds a lot of obstacles and boost ramps. But overall, the Bowser Castle theme just doesn't lend itself to many unique moments. Like, it's sorta cool when you've got these ramp sections and there's a lot of different paths to take, but it's also really boring when you have the same blocky design to the course. Mario Circuit 3 is the most nothing track. It's really fun to drive. Honestly, it's just a solid racing layout. Constantly drifting on this course is so satisfying, and the shortcuts at the end make for a tense ending. To be fair, the only reason I enjoy this is because of the Mario Kart 8 remake. This is the last Mario Circuit-ish course. Technically not, but we all know it is. This one stands out a lot more despite being based on a general racing aesthetic. I feel like this course has so many shortcuts. Some of them less intentional, but still pretty cool to discover. I think the openness of this course and its potential for shortcuts is what makes this course fun, because aside from that, the course layout doesn't do that much. Shy Guy Falls has a great set piece to it. Going up the waterfall, hitting as many boost pads as you can is a fun part of the track. Also, going down the waterfall into the glider is just so iconic. But I can't help but feel that this is a set piece track, with the rest of the course being kinda mid. It's fine, and with time I've come around to the shortcut. I don't know why I ever thought it was bad, because it's a great risk at the end of the track. This missing out on top 3 feels criminal, because I gained a greater appreciation for this course when I played the original Wii version. The minecarts play such a huge role in this track, and when they're used as obstacles, it makes this track so much better. Going for the shortcut at the end is much riskier because of this, and getting the items behind the minecarts is just such a cool mechanic. The rest of the course is just plain good. Like, there's a bunch of unique obstacles, changes in elevation, and the course is just constantly moving around. I really have nothing bad to say about this track. It's short and sweet. Shroom Ridge has cars. So therefore, Shroom Ridge is a perfect course. No, but actually, this course really elevates the car theme, because you're actually required to weave in and out of traffic, and you can pull off some crazy maneuvers because of this. I'm gonna be honest and say my favorite Booster Course Pass track was actually Shroom Ridge, and I'm mentioning this because I feel like this version almost hits that level, but the controls of Mario Kart DS doesn't allow this track to feel as satisfying. And if they added the wind shortcut, oh my god, this track would be so much better. In saying that, I love how frantic this track becomes. The layout by itself is honestly pretty interesting, but you add cars and it's amazing. Waluigi Stadium is another example of a track that is better in the Booster Course Pass. But I was really surprised to find out the GCN version was still really good in its own way. The drifting and double dash is something that's taken me a while to get used to, but in this course it feels so natural. These big 180 turns coupled with the jump ramps are really satisfying. The Piranha Plant section is something that felt like a better challenge, because once again the drifting works really well when trying to avoid everything. Even without the additional half pipes, the course layout stays interesting and offers a great amount of challenge for the final slot. Rock Mountain is a course I can understand the hate for, but if you can appreciate the shortcut possibilities this course opens up, I think there's a lot to enjoy. I think this track nails both the spectacle and course design. Gliding over the forest gives you such a majestic view, and when you couple that with the second glider, I feel like this section isn't that boring. Additionally, you have to estimate how much of a shortcut you can take based on your item. Like, you can cut the whole forest section, but if you misjudge it, you could be stranded. I feel like this is a really dynamic feature of the course, and definitely what makes it stand out to me. The ending hill is pretty easy nowadays, but I think it's an engaging way to end the track. And the different ways you can fly over the course make replaying this extremely fun. So this time round, Mario Kart 7 wins the Flower Cup, with Mario Kart Wii and Double Dash pretty close. This time round there was a better spread of points, as I feel like the Mushroom Cup has a few exceptions that are good, whereas the Flower Cup has more than half good tracks. Mario Kart 8's Flower Cup is pretty hit or miss, so I feel like the 1 point is deserved, and Super Mario Kart is yet to get a point. Hopefully it can get 1 point, but I'm not gonna lie, it's not looking good. It's really not looking good at all. And here's the total points across 2 videos. I'm gonna keep this going for the Star Cup, and if you like this video, you can check out the previous cup I did, and let me know what your ideal Flower Cup would have been in the comments. Thanks for watching, peace out.